Hello viewers, this is Bhavna Mehra. Today's topic is one of my favorite topics. As this month is the budget month and also the colleges and schools are resuming post-COVID lockdown, I thought why not to prepare my students for a very interesting topic. That's why I decided union budget. This video is specifically covering the basics of budget because I believe that discussion on budget of any financial year is only valid and fruitful when we are aware with the basic concepts. So let's begin. We are often told that you can't spend more than your earnings, and even if you are doing so, then mind the financial sources you are approaching to and also reanalyze your credibility to repay your loans. And if God forbidden you are unable to manage your expenditures and loans, then you might collapse tomorrow. Essentially, this situation calls for something which can solve this problem. And another situation is, as we all believe in organizing our life, whether it is our career, our personal life, and even to our day-to-day events, every moment, every task, and that too so diligently. So if we expect a disciplined financial life, then it is mandatory to smartly tackle our finances. And it is only possible with the proper planning for our investments, expenditures, and savings. Similarly, our government has responsibility for the entire nation. So, budget is also their priority. Therefore, in-depth analysis and minute planning for every sector is a must. And thankfully, union budget provides the solution for achieving goals. As budget is an estimation of revenue and expenses for the coming year. One of the interesting facts behind budget is that there is no such word like budget in our constitution. But Article 112 refer it as annual financial statement, which is presented annually for forthcoming financial year, which is from 1st April to 31st of March every year. Another important aspect of budget is that it contains estimates of income and expenditure of 3 consecutive financial years by providing 3 estimates, and these are actual estimates, revised estimates, and budget estimates. So first coming to actual estimates, which is for the previous financial year which is already gone. For instance, considering union budget of this year, that is 21-22, the actual estimates were given for 2019 and 20. Next comes revised estimates. These will be for the ongoing financial year, that is 2021. Now, point is, why do we need to revise the already decided expenditures and incomes? Because, let's say, once the year is in progress, some ministries or departments may need more funds than what was actually allocated to them in the budget, or the receipts expected from certain sources might have changed. Such deviations from the budget estimates get reflected in the figures released by the government at later stages as a part of the subsequent budget. So these revised estimates are important to work on as they are based on the actual needs. Thirdly, the budget estimates, which are for the forthcoming year, that is 21-22. Now moving on to the structure of budget. Usually, budget is categorized into revenue budget and capital budget, and both of these categories are further divided into 2 subcategories, and they are receipts and expenditures. Now, starting with revenue receipts, it means that all those sources from where government gets the revenue within 1 year, or we can say that these are recurring or short-term in nature. Now, thinking about the sources from where we can get the revenue in less than 1 year, we again get 2 categories, and they are tax revenue and non-tax revenue. Further, tax revenue can be of 2 types, direct and indirect, like income tax, GST, corporate tax, property tax, etc. Here I am not covering taxes in detail, but if you need one, then let me know by writing in the comment section. I will then surely make an entire video on taxation. Now, what is non-tax revenue? Revenue coming to government other than tax sources is non-tax revenue. Fines, interest received on the loans given to different states or countries, which is usually the highest proportion of non-tax revenue. Then dividends, user charges, as these are recurring in nature. But yes, although gifts and grants to government either from other countries or from any individual are non-recurring in nature, yet are the part of non-tax revenue. Moving ahead to the second category of revenue budget, which is revenue expenditure. It means the expenditure incurred in day-to-day functioning of the government, like repairs and regular maintenance of the public assets or other renewal expenses. Interest paid by government on various loans, and it also includes the expenditure incurred in providing the services to the general public, for instance, salaries of government employees, subsidies, etc. And remember, when this revenue expenditure exceeds revenue receipts, then government faces an unfavorable situation of revenue deficit. Moving to the capital side, then capital expenditures are usually large and one-time investment on fixed assets to get revenue for a longer period of time. Or the loans given to different countries or states where the outflow of money is taking place. Or investment on infrastructure are some of the ways which incur capital expenditure to the government. So it is clear that these capital expenditures are non-recurring in nature. Now, the capital receipts, which can be understood under two headings. And these are debt creating receipts and non-debt creating receipts. So first, talking about non-debt creating receipts, capital receipts, then any kind of loan recovery makes the part of non-debt creating receipts. When the government is getting the principal amount back, either from states or from different countries, this makes the part of non-debt creating receipts. Other way is by the disinvestment of PSUs. As in this year's budget, our Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman has announced the disinvestment of 2 PSU banks, as well as the launch of LIC IPO. So whatever amount comes in with these deals will be the part of non-debt creating receipts, as it is not going to create any kind of liability to the government, but it will only financially strengthen it. Now, what are debt creating capital receipts? All those receipts by which the liability of government is increasing, because these are all long-term borrowings either from RBI or from any other financial institution like World Bank, IMF, or maybe these borrowings might be from, some different country also, on which government has to pay regular interest. And remember, when I'm talking about this regular interest, this will be the part of revenue expenditure, because they have to pay that on a regular basis, right? But the principal which they are getting in the form of borrowing is becoming the part of capital receipt. So please do not get confused in that, right? But remember, ultimately, the country has to repay the principal amount as well as the interest. So it is a liability on the government. Now, let's have a quick look on the types of union budget, and there are basically 3 types of budgets. They are balanced budget, surplus budget, and deficit budget. So, coming to balanced budget, when the estimated expenditure is equal to the expected income for a particular financial year, then this budget is known as balanced budget. Usually, this budget is good enough to control the unnecessary expenditures. Surplus budget, as the name itself suggests, that it is having more income than expenditures, and now the condition is where to invest in the financial year. This phase is healthy at the time of inflation and it can be implemented in order to cut down aggregate demand. While in deflation, this type of budget will never be suitable. Lastly, deficit budgeting, which shows more expenditure than income. This budget is particularly for developing economies, and during the recession, this type of budget helps generate extra demand and stimulate the rate of economic growth. When we talk about budget, then there are some deficits too, like fiscal deficit, revenue deficit, primary deficit, and effective revenue deficit, which we can't ignore and needs to be specified. So I'm making a separate video on these deficits, which will be released soon. So do check that video too. Let's discuss some of the interesting and very important facts about our budget, starting with Halwa ceremony. With the ritual of Halwa ceremony, the process of printing documents of union budget starts roughly a week ahead of presenting the budget in Parliament. In this ceremony, halwa is prepared in a big kadai and served to the entire staff in the ministry by the finance minister. And after halwa ceremony, until the budget is presented, the entire staff remains isolated in North Block office. This year, on the occasion of halwa ceremony on 23rd Jan, our finance minister Nirmala Sitharaman launched the bilingual Union Budget mobile app, which is developed by the National Informatics Center under the guidance of the Department of Economic Affairs. This mobile app facilitates complete access of 14 Union Budget documents, including the annual financial statement, that is our budget, along with demand for grants, finance bill, etc. by the members of Parliament as well as the general public. Now moving on to the first of our budget. So starting with who announced the first budget of the country and when? So the answer is on 7th April 1860, the very first budget of the country was announced by Scottish businessman, economist and politician James Wilson. Then who presented the first budget in independent India? Then on 26th November 1947, the then finance minister R.K. Shanmukham Chetty presented the first budget of independent India, and also he was the first person who used the term interim budget. Now, there is a slight twist in the budget presentation, and that is first budget presented by PM. Yes, you heard me right, Prime Minister. So, Union Budget 58-59 was the first budget in the history which was presented by the then Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru, where he introduced a new tax instrument that was gift tax. Other than Jawaharlal Nehru, Indira Gandhi and Rajiv Gandhi were the only Prime Ministers to have presented the budget in their respective administration. Now, who is the first woman to present Union Budget? Former Prime Minister Indira Gandhi was the first woman to present the Union Budget for the financial year 1970-71. Whereas on 5th July 2019, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman became the first full-time women finance minister to present the Union Budget. Not only this, the first paper budget, which is very much in news, also presented by Nirmala Sitharaman. Meanwhile, let's see who has presented the budget for the highest number of times. And this credit goes to Morarji Desai, who presented budget for 10 times. He is followed by P. Chidambaram, 9 budgets, and Pranab Mukherjee, 8 budgets. Now, facts related to the length of budget, longest and shortest. The record for the longest budget speech of 160 minutes is held by Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman, which she delivered in 2020, was however cut short towards the end as she was not feeling well. And this year, that is 2021, her speech finished in about 1 hour 15 minutes and by far her shortest budget speech. Former Finance Minister Hirubhai Muljibhai Patel presented an interim budget in 1977 which consisted of just 800 words, shortest budget in Indian history. Now, in terms of paragraphs, Pranab Mukherjee had the longest budget because his budget speech includes an average of 202 paragraphs. He is followed by Arun Jaitley and P. Chidambaram with 185 and 173 paragraphs respectively. Whereas the first union budget speech by late R.K. Shanmukham Chetty was the shortest as it had just 39 paragraphs. Now, time to discuss some important changes in our budget. Earlier, the union budget used to be announced at 5 p.m. But in 1999, the then Finance Minister Yashwant Sinha changed this tradition by announcing the union budget at 11 a.m. In the year 2017, the rail budget was merged with the union budget. Also in the same year, the budget has been presented on 1st February instead at the last day of the February, and these changes were introduced by the then Finance Minister Arun Jaitley. In the year 2019, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman replaced the standard budget briefcase with the traditional Bahi Khata with the national emblem. It's time to look at 5 important budgets in Indian history, and these are the Black Budget, the Epochal Budget, Dream Budget, the Millennium Budget, and the Rollback Budget. Now, starting with the Black Budget. A budget which allocates funds to some secret or classified projects is known as Black Budget, and this term was given to the budget presented in the year 1973 by Yashwantrao B. Chauhan, which showed a huge budget deficit of 550 crore at that time. The main reason was said to be the allocation of rupees 56 crore for the nationalization of coal mines, general insurance companies, and Indian Copper Corporation, which led to massive dependency on imports to meet even the domestic needs, therefore ended with vast cash outflow. Next is Epochal Budget. Epochal Budget marked the beginning of liberalization. Presented by Dr. Manmohan Singh under the government of Narasimha Rao in 1991. The budget had been a landmark to make Indian economy more integrated towards the global world. The meaning of epochal is important, and this budget has been extremely significant in implementing LPG, that is, liberalization, privatization, and globalization efficiently. This was the budget which made India forerunner in the pursuit of emerging economies. 1997 budget presented by P. Chidambaram was welcomed by the common people warm-heartedly, and was also termed as Dream Project, where he extensively slashed down the highest personal income tax rate by 10%, that is from 40% to 30%. The budget of 2000, which revolutionized the entire IT industry, is known as Millennium Budget. In this budget, the then Finance Minister Yashwant Sinha announced the bold verdict wherein he not only lowered down the duties on 21 items including computers and CD-ROMs, but also slashed out completely the incentives of software exports, which were imposed by Dr. Manmohan Singh, and this brave decision brought the IT industry into different horizons of growth. Next comes the rollback budget. Although Mr. Yashwant Sinha was able to safeguard some of his key proposals, yet for the financial year 2002 and 3, due to the pressure of opposition party, he was bound to take back many of his proposals. He reduced income tax rebate and the subsidies on fertilizers, and also hiked the prices of sugar, kerosene, and LPG. So, these were some of the important landmarks in the history of Indian budget. So, we have discussed some basics and some interesting facts about our budget in this video. I'm sure that this video is going to be fruitful for the beginners as well as will also be a quick revision for the learners. And now finally, if you liked the video, then surely give a thumbs up and also share with your friends and all those people you know, because I feel that everybody should at least know what a budget is all about. And do subscribe the channel for more research-based contents. We will meet soon. Till then, maintain social distancing and stay safe. This is Bhavna Mehra signing off.